Today we're doing 5-2, polynomials, linear factors, and zeros, day 1. Our learning goal is for you to be able to analyze the factor form of a polynomial and write a polynomial function from its zeros. So let's first start off with writing polynomials in factored form. So basically, we have to go back over factoring because that's what you're doing. The first thing that you always want to look for is a GCF. So looking at this, our GCF is x. So I'm going to factor out of x. And then once you find your GCF, if there is one, you'll factor your remaining trinomial. And this will be your factor form. Okay, so I want you to try, just to make sure you got it, try this one and write it in factor form, and then we'll check our answer. Okay, so in factor form, after you pull out the x, which was the GCF, then you have x, x minus 4, and x plus 3. So that's factored form. Okay, the next concept is finding the zeros of a polynomial function. Zeros is the same thing as x-intercepts. If you notice, this equation is already in factor form, so to actually find the zeros are x-intercepts. That's where your graph hits the x-axis. You're going to first, so the first thing we do is change the y to a 0. This is after everything has been factored. And then you're going to set each of your factors. I'm just going to put second. Set each of your factors equal to 0. Like this. So here, and then you solve for x equals -2. X equals 1, and x equals 3. Then you're going to write them as ordered pairs. -2, 0, 1, 0, and 3, 0. So these are your zeros. Okay? Now, if they ask you to graph the function, you're going to need your zeros, you're going to need your end behavior, and your y-intercept. Alright, so we have our zeros. If you notice, we have 3 zeros, which means our degree is 3. Or I should say 3 x's. So this is an odd, and our leading coefficient is 1. So this is a positive odd. So my end behavior is going to be, as x approaches negative infinity, f of x approaches negative infinity. As x approaches positive infinity, f of x approaches positive infinity. Okay, so that's going to tell us how to do our graph. And then to find your y-intercept, you're going to make all the x's 0. So then we get 2, times negative 1 times negative 3, which equals 6. So your y-intercept is 0, 6. Okay, so I have my zeros, my degree, my end behavior. Now let's do the graph. Okay, so I'm going to plot my zeros, which were negative 2, 0, 1, 0, and 3, 0. And my y-intercept was 0, 6. Okay, so when I graph it, and remember, it was as x approaches negative infinity, f of x was approaching negative infinity. And then as x approaches positive infinity, it was approaching positive infinity. So that's what my two ends are doing. So I just use that to help me. And you just loop it around and back up. And right now, we haven't done minimum and maximum, so we don't know how high or how low our graph goes, so we're just doing a sketch. Okay? And then that's it. So to recap, you need your zeros, your end behavior, and your y-intercept. To make the graphs. Okay, and then we'll talk about the other characteristics later. Okay, now on this last example, we're going to learn how to write a polynomial function from its zeros. So now we're going to go backwards. And so they're going to give us the zeros, and we're going to write the function. Now notice in this example, we have 3 zeros. So the first thing that we need to do is write them as factors. So for this one, it'll be x minus negative 2, which would be x plus 2. X minus 2 is your second one, and x minus 3 is our third one. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply these out, and I'm going to FOIL the first two first. So I'll get x squared minus 2x plus 2x minus 4. Notice these two cancel. So I'm left with x squared minus 4. Now I'll take my third one and I'll FOIL those two. I'm going to get x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12. So make sure everything is in standard form. Everything is in order. And then you are done. So the first step is to write them as factors. Then you need to multiply them 2 factors at a time so you can FOIL them. And you keep going until you have your polynomial function. And that's it. So we'll try one more. Okay, if you notice, now I have 4 zeros. So I'm going to have 4 factors. So the first one is going to be x minus a negative, which will be plus 1. And it's always minus. X minus negative 2 will be plus 2. X minus will be plus 3. And then plus 4. After you write them as factors, you take 2 at a time. It doesn't matter which 2 you do. And actually, I'm going to do those 2. And I'll FOIL them out. Okay, I already combined the middle, the outer, and the inner. Then I'll do these. And then I'll just multiply these two together, making sure I cover. I'm going to distribute each term. So first I'm distributing the x squares. Okay. Then I'm going to distribute the 3x. Then I'll distribute the 2 to each term. Once everything has been distributed, then I'm going to combine like terms. I'm writing in standard form. So x to the 4th we've taken care of. I have a 3x cubed. Then I got 7 plus 12 is 19 plus 21. Let me make sure I did that right. Oh, sorry, this is 7x cubed. Okay, I didn't catch that. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so now I can do 7 plus 3, which is 10x cubed. Okay, and then my x squares, I have 12, 21, and 2, which would make 35 x squared. And then I have 36 and 14, that makes 50 x. And then last, the 24. And that's my polynomial in standard form. And that's it for day 1.